Welcome everybody to our virtual session talking about the performing arts. Really excited to welcome you all. I'm Gabby. I'm the assistant director for visitor relations at admissions. I was also a theater major when I was a student here. And yeah, without further ado, I'm gonna hand it off to Chris Woodworth, who is one of our professors in theater, and Kelly Johnson, who is a professor in dance. If you have any questions throughout the session, you can feel free to put that in the general chat, or you can message me privately as well.
Hey everybody, my name is Chris Woodworth. I'm a professor of theater and I'm currently the department chair. I teach a wide array of classes here. My primary areas of teaching are theater history and playwriting, but I also teach our Acting 1 course every semester, which is a ton of fun. I'm a director, and we produce 3 faculty-directed productions each year in the theater department, and so I'm always directing one of those. And sometimes when I'm really lucky, I get a wonderful assistant director, which Gabby just did for the last production that I directed here. I'll turn it over to Kelly so she can introduce herself.
Hi, good evening. My name's Kelly Johnson. Chris, I'm really appreciating that we both got the memo, black long sleeve tee. Yeah, I'm loving that. So my name's Kelly Johnson. I'm in the dance department. And I've been here for 14 years. I feel 13 or 14 years, something like that. So in the dance department, I teach classes both in theory and in performance, and also in dance ensemble. I teach dances of the African diaspora to a wide range of students who come to that class and classes like that for a bunch of, a variety of different reasons and wants, and teaching anything from the first time mover to somebody who wants to be a pre-professional dancer. We have several major tracks in the department that I'd be happy to discuss with anybody if they have questions about that. Anything else that I left out, Chris? Who I am? Yeah, that's who I am. And I can also talk about concerts and things like that we produce in the dance department, both guest artist things and also faculty choreographed things, student choreographed things, etc.
Yeah,
welcome.
It's a big weekend for us here in the Guerin Center for the Performing Arts. The dance department has their junior senior choreographers concert. Their final dress is tonight. Our spring theater production heads into technical rehearsals this weekend, and we open that next weekend. April is jumping in the Guerin Center for sure.
It really is.
I would love to know what brought you all here to this particular Zoom. I know we don't have a ton of time, and so if we can sort of tailor what you want to talk about, if like everybody's here to talk about dance, then I'll just sort of fade to the back. If we've got a split, then we can each talk. So if you want to kind of go around and give us a sense, is it Ella? I see you've got your camera on. What brought you to this Zoom?
Yeah, sorry, it's Eleanor, but I just forgot to change my Zoom name. I want to go into film directing and screenwriting.
Awesome.
This script, and I'm hitting a wall, so I'm hoping to learn more here.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks. Kelly, you just popped that video on. How about you?
I'm here for my daughter who is not in town, but she's interested in dancing at HWS.
Awesome. Great. We're glad to have you here.
Can I ask a question about just performances? Like, are they ever recorded? She'd love to see a performance, but we can't make it into town for that. So just wondering if they're ever recordings of even rehearsals.
They're definitely recorded and archived. So the answer is yes. Whether they're open to public viewing is I want to say no.
Okay.
Yeah. If it was about kind of being curious so what do you think the video would give her?
She just wants to have a sense of what it means to perform at HWS. She wants to see the kind of work that's being produced. And
got you. Has she checked the website out at all?
Yeah, but she's visited and taken classes.
Oh, beautiful. Okay. I wonder if I've met her. What is her name?
Molly Armbrust. She was in the fall.
Okay, yeah. I don't think I got to meet her. Yeah, I mean, what I would say is in terms of performing opportunities, right? So there's, I will kind of start. It's a broad spectrum, right? So we have everything from student clubs to professional guest artists that are brought in, right? So it's this real wide range, and then the faculty and students are kind of nicely nestled in between those two ends. We have a concert called the Kinetic Dance Collective, which is the largest student club on campus. I would say they're up to like 170 or 200 members. They choreograph their own show. They audition their own dances. It's down at the Smith Opera House in town. It's really exciting for the students. It's just a wonderful opportunity. There's just a lot of buzz around it. There's typically like 24 to 25 pieces in the show, all styles, all ranges of movers. And so that's kind of where the dance club voice is. It's one of the biggest clubs. There's also Hypnotics, which is a step team, although I haven't heard kind of where they're at lately, like who's directing them. I'm not really sure. But there was also a Club Executives that was student run for a while. As far as student opportunities go, we have the junior senior concert, which is happening, as Chris said, right now. And that is a rather intimate show where typically anywhere from 6 to 10 students who have been studying composition and have gotten a decent amount of faculty mentorship on their work can premiere new work in a concert. So that's what's happening this week, which is just really exciting to see young people have an idea about something that they're going to really research and test that out on stage. And there's a ton of learning that happens in that, as you can imagine. And then we have the faculty ensemble, which is done with auditioning. Typically in the fall, faculty will host an audition. And most of the time, we don't really know what our vision is. We're very student-centered. And so when I say we don't know our vision, I mean, we have to meet the cast first. We're very connected to our students and very much artists in our own right. But, for example, I've got an ensemble right now. It's 6 people in it. It's the smallest one I've ever had, and I'm making the piece with the bodies that I got that are enrolled in this class right now. And it's about them, so you have that experience that your daughter could take for credit. You receive credit for an opportunity like that. The other the previous mentioned ones are not for credit. They're for extracurricular dancing. And then we also bring in guest artists, and oftentimes that's an opportunity for students to witness what that looks like, right? And what voices those artists might have. And oftentimes there's master classes, collaborative things as well. But to your answer, is there performances of ours just out there? I think you'd have to maybe reach out to one of us directly and say, could I have a look at what the faculty concert looked like last year? And maybe that's something that we could do, but to my knowledge, we don't.
Thank you.
So we had a question in the chat about acting at HWS. I can spend a few minutes talking about that. Gabby, do you think that would be to kind of give an overview of the department and then talk specifically about acting here? Gabby, does that seem like a good plan?
Yeah, no, yeah, sounds perfect.
Okay, great. I might ask you for some of your insights and experiences too, as a recent theater major. So one of the amazing things about coming to a place like HWS to study the performing arts is that we're not a conservatory. We're not the place where you're going to check into a theater or an acting studio and not see the light of day or sunshine for the next 4 years. We are a place where you're going to get a wonderful education, a well-rounded education in whatever art form is your choice. And you are going to be finding all sorts of really exciting interdisciplinary connections. You're going to find all sorts of ways to connect with students outside of the performing arts and within other performing arts here as well. So our theater major is a classic liberal arts theater degree. Every student who is a major takes a set of core classes, an acting class, a script analysis class, some theater history, and you're going to ultimately, in the end of your journey here, you'll do a senior capstone where you're going to create a brand new thing that didn't exist before the class, and use that as kind of a launch pad for what comes next for you beyond HWS, which seems like a bonkers thing to be thinking about now as you're starting your college journey, but that's kind of where we take you in the 4 years. From there, students then are choosing from an array of electives. And so some students who are really focused on acting will end up building on their Acting 1 course and taking many of our upper level acting classes. So we have classes in Shakespearean performance, contemporary professional acting techniques and auditioning. That's our Acting 2 class. We have a course called Advanced Acting Styles. And every time that's offered, it's a different theme. So right now, Professor Chris Hatch, who's one of my colleagues, is teaching advanced acting styles, and the theme this semester is slapstick and swashbuckling. So students are sword fighting in this class, learning commedia dell'arte, masking, comic performance techniques, things like that. We have all taught a version of advanced acting styles. I've taught a physical theater version. We have a devising version of the class. And so when those come up over and over again, if it's a different topic, you can take that. You can take that several times. So that's kind of the folks who focus on acting can do that. But we have students here who are interested in lots of different areas of theater. And it seems like, Eleanor, that might be kind of where you're at as somebody who's interested in film and film directing and screenwriting. I think there are some things that we offer in the department that could be really helpful for that. I teach a playwriting workshop class, and that culminates in the students producing an evening of staged readings of short plays and monologues that they've written over the course of the class. We had many students go on to create, we had an independent study last fall of 4 students who continued on to write full-length plays, and some of those then continued on from there and made those plays their honors projects. And so we're bringing in the resident playwright from Syracuse Stage in a couple of weeks to be the respondent to one of our theater majors honors projects. She's written this beautiful, beautiful play that all kind of started as a much smaller seed a year ago. We have some classes in design and technology. We've got a wonderful introduction to stagecraft class where you're working in the scene shop and you're learning how to use a table saw and learning a little bit about electrics, and you're helping to build the set and focus the lights for whatever faculty directed production is on deck. In the spring semester next year, so this could potentially, if you're going to be here next year, you could next spring take our sound design for the theater class. And Eleanor, I would 100% recommend that for you because it also has great applicability to film work as well. So we've got pretty much something for everybody. If you have an interest in theater, on stage, backstage, building the stage, writing something for the stage, we've got a class for you. We do have a directing class as well. In addition to this array of classes that our majors take, we also do 3 faculty-directed productions each year. There are 3 full-time, full professor theater faculty, and we are very, very different as artists and scholars and teachers, and so our productions are very, very different. We have just finalized our season for next year. I can't give you the specific titles yet because we haven't announced it to our students, but if you are thinking about being here next year, you might be auditioning for a classical Greek tragedy in the fall, a wild semi-comical contemporary theater piece that has amazing movement sequences in it in the winter, and then an edgy magical realist contemporary theater piece in the spring. So it's a pretty eclectic array for next year, and that's kind of emblematic of what our seasons are like. So that was a lot of information about the theater department. I'm looking at the chat. Kelly, do you want to say some more about kind of an overview of the dance department? You are now dance and movement studies. That's super exciting.
Yeah. So we've got we have a minor And we also, which is an interdisciplinary minor. So let me go, I'm going to echo how you started, Chris, in speaking about how we are not a conservatory. So, not the conservatories are not amazing, but we do something really different here, we just do. So, and that's really a part of who we are. And I think why I like teaching here, right, is that it isn't one thing, is that it can be, your needs as a student and as a mover can be met in a variety of different ways. So we have a minor, which is interdisciplinary. We then, is disciplinary, my bad. Then we have a disciplinary performance and choreography major, which is kind of your standard BA, BFA sort of esque thing. It's a BA here, but it reminds me a lot of other BFA programs, where it's a lot of performing and a lot of learning how to choreograph, and it's a lot of dancing, like a lot. And then we have 3 interdisciplinary majors, one in movement studies, which is more science focused. So that might be for somebody who might be interested in any sort of body work, somebody who wants to work with mindfulness or work with touch work, or maybe wants to go into chiropractic care or wants to work as a physical therapist. We have a lot of students that come in as bio majors who have the science mind or the math mind. We've got a lot of students right now who are out in the medical field, who started off as dancers in bio, and had that double major of movement studies, dance, and bio, or chemistry. Now the labs are a little daunting in terms of scheduling. I'm not going to lie. The labs are tough, with rehearsals and things like that. Right. But you have to manage your time. So we've got the movement studies track. We also have a theory and performance track, which focuses more at looking and doing, right? So experiencing what's the theories behind all these dances that we're navigating. And then more importantly, like, what is performance in the first place, right? So thinking about performance, both literally and also really abstractly, that we are all performing right now as we're talking to one another, right? We're performing all these parts of ourselves all the time. So that, what I like about that track is it's kind of philosophical, and you can weave in other classes like sociology, can be electives that you use for a major like that. That's probably what I would pick if I were a student here. Then we have dance education, which is also, as it sounds, right, looking at dance and looking at education. So those classes might have, you might take courses in, like, human behavior or development or child psychology or children with disabilities. All of those things can be woven into that major. But the beauty is that I would say one of the beauties about this program is that we work to meet the students with where they are, where they want to go, right? But oftentimes students come in with dance experience, right? And they're like, okay, this is how I dance, right? Because for many of us, if we're dancers, we've been dancing at the same place, but with the same people for a really long time, and maybe in one studio and one studio only, and maybe for like your whole life, and then a lot of students come to college, and many other degrees and disciplines, their minds are just like cracked open, right? That you could be like, I have to start the class laying on the floor. What? I'm tuning into my breath. Like, what does that have to do with anything? And it's a whole new way of thinking about the role that the body has in the world, right? And the roles that we have as movers. So you could take classes in ballet. You can take classes in jazz. There's several different types of modern dance that are taught here. Diasporic forms, specifically introduction to Jamaican dance and introduction to dances of the African diaspora. Those are predominantly our ballet techniques. We have both introductory levels of composition and more upper levels of composition, where you may spend an entire semester working on a solo, or a series of solos, get a ton of feedback on that, and keep tinkering. We have 3 levels of dance history: one that looks at ballet, one that looks at modern, and one that looks at kind of 20th century gender difference, identity, etc. That's a lecture course. It involves a lot of video and a lot of writing and a lot of talking and a lot of criticism. We also have a dance criticism course. We also offer courses that kind of bridge studio to community, because I would say one of the things that's really important to the dance faculty is the way that dance can be brought out into the community, and how the community can be brought into dance, and what those things have to do with one another. And so we have classes like community arts. We have classes yeah, the list goes on. There's a lot of exciting things. There's a lot of exciting things here in terms of dancing. And there's no audition process to take a dance class. Like if you're like, I want to take a dance class, or if you're like, maybe you're actually taking theater and you're like, I also want to take a dance class. Right? Let's see how these things can nurture one another and inform one another. You don't have to be a dance major to take a dance class. And you don't have to audition to take a dance class. Now, what oftentimes happens for some students, they think they're just going to be like one and done, and they're going to take their one dance class and that's going to be it. And they find that they enjoy moving and learning through their body. And that for a lot of them, they're classes that consist of sitting at desks and in rows and looking at the backs of people's heads. And they come into a classroom where they're sitting in a circle and they're actually sharing their thoughts and journaling and expressing physically in the space with other people. Yeah.
That's awesome, Kelly. I mean, we could both talk like for hours about our departments and our disciplines, and we clearly are very passionate about what we do. I'm very mindful of our time, and I see that we've got a couple of questions in the chat that we haven't had a chance to address yet. So I'm going to jump in and try and run through some of those that are pertaining. I think they're both, the two questions are both theater questions. Maddie, hi Maddie, we're so glad you're here. Oh my gosh, I love your question about theater arts and vocal instrumental ensembles. I will tell you, I was just having a conversation today with one of my Acting 1 students who was like, I think I want to do a theater minor, but I'm a music major and I'm in all of these ensembles. I want to audition for a play. Can I make it work? And the short answer is we make it work. We've been making it work. We are not an enormous school. We love that students are many things and doing many things. And so for theater work in particular, we have a negotiation that has to happen, and it happens show to show. Some plays are going to require that everybody be at every rehearsal all the time. And we're going to have less flexibility to negotiate a schedule where we might say, okay, well, you can go to your ensemble up until we get to tech and performance week, and then we're going to need you here. Or you can come into rehearsal late because your ensemble goes until 8 o'clock and rehearsal starts at 6:30 until we get to that tech week. It really is dependent on the production. For instance, the play that I directed this past February, Zombie Cheerleaders, A Teenage Witch, and the Demonic Voice on the Other End of the Phone, was a very tight ensemble piece, and we didn't have a lot of wiggle room to work around scheduling conflicts. However, the play that I directed last fall, a year ago, was this wild ride, Too Much Light Makes the Baby Go Blind, 30 plays in 60 minutes. I don't always direct things with endless titles. In fact, the play I'm directing next year has a one-word title. That was my criteria. I was tired of writing these really long titles on everything all the time. And so we can usually work around it. Not every show is going to be able to be flexible in that way, but we have a number of students who are double majors in music, who are maybe music majors and theater minors, or theater majors and music minors, or folks who are just being a part of a vocal or instrumental ensemble is really important to them. There are also extracurricular opportunities for that. We've got a theater major she's studying abroad right now in Galway, Ireland. She's coming back in the fall. She'll be completing her honors project, where she also wrote a brand new full-length play. She's a double major in music education and theater. And extracurricularly, she sings in one of our a cappella groups on campus, 3 Miles Lost. And she's the lead singer in a band made up of students called Moonflower, and they play out all over the place. They play on campus for events. They play in downtown in a local brewery pretty regularly. They are called on for like fancy events too at the president's house. So there's lots of opportunities to blend an interest and a participation in theater with an interest in participation in music as well. Required to keep a theater scholarship. Gabby, do you want to? I'm not sure what that means exactly.
I'm guessing it's about we offer like art scholarships, and I'm guessing it was like gifted for theater. Yeah.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, so art scholars. You know, if a scholarship has been awarded, the department really doesn't have anything, you know, we're not sort of policing that or monitoring that. That's really something between you and admissions and financial aid. And so whatever sort of benchmarks you would need to meet to preserve any scholarship are going to be spelled out for you in the offer package, I would imagine. We take a look at folks who are applying for art scholars, and what we're really curious about and what we look for is that folks who have not just already participated in theater work, but have a desire to continue to participate in theater work, and that can be on stage or off. You know, there are so many people who want to be involved in theater here at HWS that we hope ideally that pocket of art scholar money is going to support those folks that are going to continue their engagement in some way, through taking several classes or classes in a production or two here and there, or, you know, full-on commitment to that theater major. But again, you know, it's not really up to the department in terms of what keeps a scholarship or loses a scholarship. Maddie, does that answer your question? There we go. Okay. All right. Great. Awesome. And then Jack, you're interested in stage crew for building the sets. Jack, yes, please. Join us. Every fall, we have a class called Introduction to Stagecraft. I believe I mentioned that one already. Although there are 3 faculty in the department, we also have a 4th full-time member of the department. His name is Ed Hobart. He's our resident designer and technical director. He designs and builds all of our sets, designs all of our lighting, and he teaches stagecraft. So that's the best way. If you're going to be here in the fall or next fall, sign up for stagecraft and you'll be building the sets for the fall show and possibly the winter show as well, depending on our timeline. And then from there, students who really do well in stagecraft are often offered a campus job after the class is done. And so we have a number of former stagecraft students that are now paid to work in the scene shop. And so they're painting, they're building, they're designing elements of the set or props, helping with the lighting. In the semesters where we have both student workers and a stagecraft class, sometimes they're kind of come in as like the TAs or the assistants in the labs. So if that's something you're interested in, have we got a scene shop just waiting for you? I think that was all of the questions. Does anybody else have any more questions that we can answer for you? I want to say one of the things I think that is really a strength of HWS, and I'm going to speak about this specifically to theater, but I know Kelly could say something very similar about dance, is that when you come to a place like this, specifically this place where we are small and students get a lot of individual mentoring, we are, on the one hand, preparing you for the jobs that exist in the performing arts that you know exist in the performing arts. So for theater, if you want to go on to be an actor, we have many students who've gone on to really impressive MFA acting programs. We had 2 students in shows in New York City 2 weeks ago, which was amazing. And they both graduated in the last like 6 or 7 years. We've got 3 that have come out of MFA acting programs, 2 that are currently in MFA acting programs just in the last like 7 or 8 years. So we can prepare you for the jobs that you know exist in the arts. But we also help you learn about and prepare for jobs in the arts that you might not even know exist. In a week, the theater department is celebrating our 10th anniversary. We've only been a major and a department for a decade, but we've had theater at HWS for 2 centuries. And we've got a 2-day celebration that's happening in conjunction with our spring production. One of the events that's part of that big 2-day celebration is an alumni panel of theater professionals. We've got 4 alumni who are coming back here to talk about their work in the theater. One of them is a producer and writer, currently producing a new musical about Nina Simone, which is slated for they're slated for an off-Broadway run in the next couple of years. We have someone who works as a senior producer for a film production company. She was a double major in theater and media and society. Almost all of our majors are double majors, and many of them are media and society double majors because our departments work together so beautifully. We have another student who is the director of patron services for the Atlantic Theater Company in New York City. And then we have another one who is a casting professional, and she was on the casting team for the film Past Lives, which was an Academy Award nominee. And she also was on the casting team for Here Lies Love, the first all-Filipino Broadway musical that just closed a few months ago. And so these are jobs that people might not be aware exist in the theater. And a number of our former students have gone on to really thrive in those industries in surprising ways that are a little bit more behind the scenes than what you might be accustomed to. We also have a number of students who've gone on to things like law school. We had 2 that became nurse midwives. We have a number of teachers. We have folks who've worked in marketing and publishing, and all of them talk about how they are using the education, training, and experience from their theater classes and their theater degrees in ways that they never anticipated they would, but they become essential to their lives, to their work lives, and to their daily lives as well. And so I think that's one of our real strengths. And we have a real knack for being able to mentor students who say, I want to do this thing. I don't know what it's called. I don't know how to pull all of this together. We can help you figure that out and put you on a path to be able to make that a reality. I will probably stop there because I've been talking an awful lot. Kelly, is there anything else that you would want to sum up before we head out?
You kind of took, yeah, I mean, all of that you just said, I think is really important. I think what I would like to add, just the idea of, I mean, college is already, an experience. And, I obviously went there myself, for a long time. But there is something I think really special about the variety of ways that teaching goes on here on this campus. It doesn't look the same. And it doesn't even look the same, within a given department. So as Chris has articulated that, kind of redefining for yourselves jobs that you may not even know are really out there. And I think there's something about this space that's really special in the way that the faculty get in touch with the students and know the students on a one-on-one, and are really able to see what the students are already coming in with, nurturing some of those skills inside of them, and also assisting them in trying to make the transition from this place where you happen to be for 4 years to what some of your future goals are. And I think there's some real actualization that happens here that I think is particularly special and unique. I would also say that that the faculty here really care about students. And I think that, and again, I've been in college for a long time, and I've seen a lot of colleges, and that's not the same everywhere. And I do feel like that is one of the many things, but one of the things that I find really special about the colleagues that I share space with is that they do really care about the students. And getting to know the students in a personal way. And that also includes how the students learn, right? So that's also important too, that we're not teaching in a one size fits all way either, even inside of the classroom, right? So differentiating for each student what their needs are, that also looks, and everybody should be doing that, PS, but that looks like finding out what the student needs, finding out how the student can best articulate what they know, whether that's a written essay, or whether this faculty says, you know what, I'd like for you to speak that into your phone, and because that's how you communicate best. Those sort of things happen. I'm doing that right now in a class, right? And so that is something that I think we as faculty are always trying to be, I don't like the phrase cutting edge, but being responsible educators is something that I feel like this place takes really seriously. And that's something that I take pride in, is that we're responsible educators. And that means that we always have to be learning too. And also what that means, particularly in the performing arts, is that we're also artists ourselves, right? And you know, that expression, like, those who don't teach, we're still doing, like, we're still doing. And so I think that there's something really unique about that. And I think that also helps build bridges between the students and the faculty, because, oh, Kelly's not going to be able to be here for this thing because she has a performance somewhere, right? Or Professor Woodward's got a performance somewhere, right? And so that also, I think, is a wonderful example to show a young 18, 20-year-old student that this is a way that you can continue to do this thing that you love so deeply, and find a way to have it be in your life in a continual way, that you don't age out of this thing, that you just redefine what it means for you and what you mean for it in the field long term.
That was beautiful, Kelly. I want to come here as a student now. Yeah. I guess, Gabby, do we turn it back over to you? What do we do? Any other final questions? Or
If there's no more questions, I think that concludes the Zoom. Thank you guys so much for joining. Please feel free to reach out to Professor Woodworth or Kelly Johnson if you have any more questions. You know, they're
pop our emails into
Yeah.
the chat, maybe, just so that folks will have it. If I could spell my own name right, that would help.
I'll put my email too if you want to hear what it's like, maybe from a student perspective. I just graduated this last May as well. So yeah,
Yeah, you
feel
did.
free. Connect, reach out, right? Ask questions. You know, we're all here, accessible, reachable for anything you guys want to hear about.
Yeah, and I hope that we see some of you here in August. And if you're going to be here for a campus visit sometime in April, and you want to take a peek at some of the dance or theater spaces, reach out. Gabby can help organize that, or you can reach out directly to me or Kelly, and we'll happily give you the behind the scenes tour.
If you put it in your special requests, I'm the person that reads all of the special requests for campus visits, so I can organize that. But again, my email's also in the chat, so I can help arrange that if you want to see, you know, dance spaces or theater spaces. So yeah.
Or sit in on a class.
Yep. We have somebody sitting in on the slapstick and swashbuckle class next Friday. So yeah,
Fantastic.
I can definitely help with that if that's of interest. So
yeah. Cool.
Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.